The following program on PBS 39 is made possible in part by...
For nearly 60 years, Arts United has worked to bring the rich, diverse talents of our region together through support of the arts, socially, culturally, and economically. Arts United, providing a home for the arts in Northeast Indiana.
Excellence lives here in Northeastern Indiana. It's reflected in more than 200 nationally recognized degrees. It drives our Division I sports. It's alive in our campus life. Excellence has a name, IPFW. Around our campus, around the country, around the world. Excellence lives here. Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, two great names.
This is Arts Weekly. Arts Weekly is produced in cooperation with the College of Visual and Performing Arts at IPFW, offering degrees in fine arts, music, theater, and visual communication and design.
Welcome to Arts Weekly. I'm John O'Connell, Dean of the IPFW College of Visual and Performing Arts. On today's show, we'll be featuring art and music. In the second half of the show, I'll be joined by David Cooke and Sam Savage to hear about the Community Orchestra and IPFW Opera Ensemble collaboration. But first, I'm joined by Hope Wallace from the Wassenberg Art Center in Van Wert, Ohio. Hope, welcome to Arts Weekly, and thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
I guess I should say thank you a second time because we had you scheduled during the awful winter that would not end.
Yes.
And you had to call in because you're driving 40 miles and we had yet another snowstorm.
Yes, so. It was snowy and I was getting ill and I didn't want to spew germs.
Didn't want to be on live television in that condition. Yeah,
right.
We're glad to have you because
there's
a lot happening at your art center.
Yes.
It's a year-round operation, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about you first. Tell me a little bit about your background as an artist or in the arts.
I started out, my first real job was a freelance giftware designer, music boxes and that sort of things, and that was just by submitting artwork to companies. And then went to Ohio Art and worked as a toy designer. Betty Spaghetti was probably one of the more prominent toys that I worked on. And then from there I went to Sauter Woodworking and worked in their marketing communications department as a graphic designer. And from there I worked at Bittersweet Farms, which is an 80-acre farm community that services adults with autism. There's workshops there. We had an art studio and we made products as their art director.
Is it a resident farm?
Yes, it is.
So
yes.
Adults live on the farm and you provided art services to them?
Yes, I did.
Interesting. How many residents do they have?
I served about 22, but I think they served total, I'm not sure anymore, but well into the hundreds. They have 4 facilities now.
And how long were you a toy designer?
A couple of years.
A couple of years.
Couple of years, yes.
Trial and error? Is there a great deal of sitting on the floor and throwing things
around? There is.
This isn't jacks. This is something more
this
important.
This is not fun.
Yeah.
Or this is fun.
Or this is fun.
Yeah. A lot of the ideas come in from inventors, as did my project was the Betty Spaghetti. Came in like styrofoam balls and pipe cleaners to illustrate the point, and then the designer's job was to refine it and choose products and molding techniques and decoration and things like that.
Right, because there's a lot of rules you have to follow.
Oh, yes.
Don't want to swallow things,
right.
Don't want things that can be pointed and age appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is that you said it's in Ohio? It's
in Bryan, Ohio.
Bryan, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. And you've been with the Wassenberg Art Center for how long?
3 years.
3 years. As the executive director?
Yes.
What is your job as executive director? Do you have a large staff? Do you? Are you laughing at me when I say that?
We have
what art center has a large staff? Yeah, exactly.
We have a staff of 2.
This is called Arts Weekly, John, not corporate America.
Right.
Yeah.
Staff of 2. We have a wonderful board of directors that pitch in hands-on all the time.
Right.
We have volunteers that we use, and then we have instructors that help us out there. it is just a really wonderful place. I mean, I do the marketing. Like the books are handled by the Van Wert County Foundation. They underwrite us like the Niswonger Performing Arts Center. So that is one thing we don't have to worry about too much.
So there's an umbrella arts council like we have in Fort Wayne to a certain extent. Someone that takes care of your foundation.
It's a foundation, but one of their areas is to service the arts. They fund the Arts in the Park program.
Right.
You know, on free concerts on Friday in the summer.
Well, that's a big weight off your shoulders.
Oh,
I would
yes,
imagine.
definitely.
Yeah, not having
definitely.
to worry about that sort of thing.
You know, social media, we curate exhibits, schedule programming, classes, events. Because we're a rural community, there's not a lot of people that are strictly interested in the visual arts, so we have to kind of be a one-stop shop. So we have events, we have rock bands come, alternative music. We've had our opening was steampunk themed, and we had performers come, a lot of them from Fort Wayne, and we had a 1920s Great Gatsby style party.
So you have a
called the
performing
Big
arts
Wasky.
center in the art center as well.
We have a small stage where we
Right.
have small groups.
Well, tell me about the history of the Wassenberg Center. How did it get started? How long has it been around?
The Wassenberg's been around since 1954. Charles Wassenberg was a local philanthropist in Van Wert at the time. When he passed away, he had no family, so he bequeathed his house and some funds to create an art center where he and his friends had gathered and painted, you know, got together and hung out, and they wanted to keep that going, and so he donated his home, and the fund has grown over the years.
So he was a painter himself, just by interest, by hobby?
Just by interest. He and his wife traveled, and we have all these great 1920s photos of them on steamships. Looks like a scene from the Titanic or whatever, but
Right.
it looked like they had a lot of fun, and thankfully, you know, they're seeing that we still have a lot of fun.
And did they endow a building, or where are you actually housed?
Their home. They originally gave their home over to create the art center, but it was needing some work, and we decided that if we're going to put money into something, we might want to look for something a little bit more functional. And at that time, the Van Wert Armory was for sale, and we were able to purchase that. At the 11th hour, it was going to be torn down and a discount store put in. And we were able to save the building, and now it's just gorgeous.
Well, it must be large. I think we have a picture of it on our screen right now. That's the
Yes.
back? Is that the back?
That's the front.
That's the front?
And
Wow,
that
it's
is
gorgeous.
a computer rendering that I did for promotions and things, but it looks very much like that. It's 12,000 square feet. And
it's all yours?
Yes,
That's
and the
terrific.
surrounding grounds. And the sculptor is Mike Bendeley from Delphus, Ohio. He's an international sculptor, and he was able to put a sculpture out front. And it's kind of growing because there was some dilapidated property next to the building, south of it. The foundation purchased that and demolished them. It's going to be green space and sculpture gardens and parking, and it's like a drop in a pond.
Right, exactly. That's how it
Yeah.
always is, especially in
Yeah.
these rural communities. If there's someone willing to put the money out, you know, that initial investment that's substantial, that ripple just can keep going and keep going. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. Now, you have an interesting collection I'd like to talk a little bit about.
Okay.
You have something related to the Native American
Right.
population. Let's talk a little bit about that collection, because it's really very interesting.
It is interesting, and there's a lot of theories about David Humphreys Miller was the son of one of Wassenberg's friends who was a practicing artist. And when he was young, in like the late 20s, early 30s, he became fascinated with the Battle of Little Bighorn. And at that time, the only stories that were in the history books were written, you know, by the U.S. government, but no one really survived from the U.S. side. So he thought maybe there was another story. So at age 16, his dad bought him a car, gave him $100, and sent him out packing out to South Dakota to Pine Ridge Reservation to begin interviewing these survivors of the Battle of Little Bighorn. They're primarily Lakota Sioux, and he went to art school, ended up starting painting their portraits. He also wrote 2 books. One is called
What
Custer's
year is
Fall.
this,
is in the
actually?
30s and 40s.
Okay,
And
all
when
right.
World War II got in the way for a little bit. The last survivor died in 1955. So in that time span, he interviewed 72 of the survivors, among other, you know, Native Americans, and was able to do so in their own language. He learned 14 different dialects, sign language, the 2 books, and was in 25 films.
And how did you get the collection? How large is the collection, and how did you get it?
Our collection's valued at around 800 to $1 million. Robert Brent Stevens, also from Van Wert, became fascinated with David Humphreys Miller as a child. He's a distant relative, and started collecting his work. When we purchased the armory, he wanted to give back to the community and said, I think this ought to be here. If you are willing to accept it, can we do some kind of a long-term loan? So,
great.
Yeah.
That's on permanent display. Let's talk a little bit about some of the things you have coming up in the spring. What's coming up next for you?
Our next exhibit is our annual June art exhibit. That's been going on, this is our 58th year, and our call for entries is going out this week, and check-in is May 17th and 18th. We still do it kind of the old-fashioned way where you bring your artwork, and it is juried, and there are awards, over $1,300 worth of awards, and we usually have a really great opening.
Right. And let's talk a little bit about artism.
Artism.
Something that's probably a little close to your heart,
yeah,
if you
absolutely.
talk about your history as an art teacher.
Well, when I started working with the artists at Bittersweet, I was stunned at the artwork. It is unique in many different ways. Because they call it a spectrum disorder. Well, their artwork...
Autism. We're talking about autism.
Right, and their artwork reflects that. And our current exhibit is called Artism, and it has the artwork from one Fort Wayne artist, Frank Lewis Allen, and artists from Open Door Studio in Columbus, and then artists again from Bittersweet.
Now, the next show and this is running right now.
Yes.
And it runs through...
May 6th.
Terrific. And the next show that you're accepting submissions for does not accept photography.
That is correct.
Because you have a photography show during the year always.
Yes, in October, and I believe that will be the 36th or 37th.
Terrific.
Yeah, Ohio Designer Craftsman is after our June show, which is out of Columbus, the Ohio Design Museum, and then we'll have our artist members exhibit around the holidays. And our next event is called Derby Jam, and we're going to be live streaming the Kentucky Derby. We're going to have a hat contest and Kentucky-style food.
Mint juleps?
Oh, yes.
Mint juleps flowing.
Slushes, yeah.
Slushes, yeah.
Julep slushes. Yeah. And we'll also have Reese Daly down from Toledo. He's pretty well known up in the Put-in Bay area.
Great.
His band. So.
How can our viewers get information about the Wassenberg?
They can go to our website at wassenbergartcenter.org, and all of the exhibits, also the David Humphreys Miller, or the Faces of Little Bighorn, also is on that site.
And they can also call 419-238-6837, 419-238-6837, or the wassenbergartcenter.org. Yes. Well, Hope, thank you so much for joining me on Arts Weekly. It's been a great pleasure meeting you.
Yeah, you too.
And I look forward to getting down and visiting the center this summer.
Oh,
and
I'd
visit
love that.
some of the new gardens.
Yes,
right.
Please do.
Thank you. Please take this minute to look at our performance calendar of what's happening in our area while we get ready to talk to Sam Savage and David Cooke from the Community Orchestra and the IPFW Opera Ensemble about their upcoming collaboration. We'll be On April 21st, the Community Orchestra will partner in the second half of the concert with the IPFW Opera Ensemble to present a comic opera, Mozart's The Impresario. This comedic opera portrays the misadventures of Frank, an entrepreneur as he struggles to pull together a company of actors riddled with eccentricities and rivalries while dancing around possible financial ruin. Joining me to talk about this production are David Cooke, Director of the Community Orchestra, and Dr. Sam Savage, Director of the IPFW Opera Ensemble. Gentlemen, welcome to Arts Weekly, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
I can't wait. I should have got my hair cut.
I was going to say, you didn't get the memo, did you?
I didn't get the memo. I need a beard and I need to shave this head off. What am I doing? Got the most hair at the table. That's not usually my case. As long as you gentlemen don't stand up, then we're really, show my, yes. I'm excited to talk about the opera collaboration. But let's first talk about your affiliation with Dr. Sam Savage. What's your affiliation with IPFW?
I am the coordinator of Studio Voice, and I am the director of the IPFW Opera Ensemble.
Which means what? That it's a volunteer thing? It's for credits?
It's actually a class. It's a class that meets twice a week from 4 o'clock to 5:50 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And it's mostly music majors, but anybody could really audition for it if they wanted to. But it's a required class for performance majors and for education majors too. Not as many semesters, but considering many of them will be directing musicals and other things, I think it's very important that they learn those skills, because not only are they learning the craft of acting and singing, but they are assigned different technical duties, and they've done remarkable jobs presenting things.
Right, they're doing sets, they're doing costumes, they're doing all that sort of thing. Well, I have to commend you that in the last couple of years, you have decided to do full operas. Yes. And that isn't always the model in some universities. Sometimes it's just a scene night of different operas, which there's nothing wrong with. But I like the idea of having the audience experience a full story, but also having students have the experience of having to be part of a full story, follow a character all the way through from the beginning to the end. That's a big challenge, because if they become opera singers, that's what they're going to do. Absolutely. And so you've really taken that challenge on, and I appreciate that. Well, I think the audience does too. I think it's reflected in the amount of audience you're getting, is it not?
I think so. I set it up in two ways. I like to do one full opera a year, and then I like to do a scenes program for some of the younger singers, to have them get the experience of that. And then I like to also give them the experience of learning an entire role, the pacing it'll take. Like you said, the development of the character. I mean, if you think about some of these operas, the characters, like Violetta in Traviata, she's 3 different voices throughout that whole thing. And so all these things have different challenges. And then also to be able to collaborate. Right. I think it was a year and a half ago, we got to collaborate together on a scenes program. And then David was so kind last spring to approach the idea of doing something else, because the orchestra had such a good time with it. So we were thrilled. So we found this project, the Impresario, which is charming, a little bit naughty.
A little bit naughty?
A little bit naughty.
I can't wait. Let's get our tickets now and sit close to the front. Anytime it's naughty, I want to sit close.
And traditionally, the Impresario has been, the dialogues have been, it's a singspiel, so there were dialogues. It was originally written as a competition piece against Salieri, but it's usually done in whatever the venue or wherever it's taken. Right. So we put it in 1940s Fort Wayne. So it's been, some of the dialogues have been sort of updated for that purpose. So I think that makes it accessible for the audience, and I think they'll enjoy it. Right.
David, welcome to Arts Weekly. I think this is your first time on our program.
Yeah, I think
so.
Welcome.
You wear many hats in Fort Wayne in the music world. Which one do you want to start with? Tell us a little bit about what you do in Fort Wayne.
Well, I'm the principal trombonist with the Philharmonic, and I'm the director of orchestral activities at IPFW, continuing lecturer in trombone, and a Philharmonic mentor.
That's a lot of hats.
That's a lot of, oh, and I conduct the Fort Wayne Youth Symphony.
And I conduct, and by the way, there's this other little symphony I take care of. Well, that's a lot of hats, but they're all around music. So at your heart, you're a musician.
Absolutely.
And when did you start playing music?
I started playing the trombone when I was 9. And
that's a big instrument for a 9-year-old.
That is. I was not a tall kid at that age. It was a few years later that my sort of growth spurt happened, and I got tall. But yeah, at 9, I actually started on the saxophone, played it for about 3 days and thought, no. Switched to the trumpet, and that was about 20 minutes. I figured, no, that's not it. So my band director said, we need trombones. And so I picked up the trombone, and first time I honked into it, I thought, all right,
This
is
feels-
good.
this
Yeah,
feels
this feels right. So I went up, all the way through school, went to The Ohio State University and then to the Cleveland Institute of Music. And in 1989, I won a position here with the Philharmonic. There were about 40 trombone players that came to town for the audition, and I was fortunate enough to take the ball that day.
Right.
And about 2 years later, in 91 or 92, IPFW, at the time, Jim Ator was the chair of the department. He contacted me about, saying, we need a new orchestra director, would you be interested? So, absolutely.
Right.
So this
Because the community orchestra that you are the conductor of is a joint orchestra.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
It is a class that students enroll in, and but it's also open to community members who are not, enrolled in classes at IPFW. And we have a really nice mix. It's probably about 60-40, with community members comprising the larger bit of that. It's a very friendly organization, the great orchestra. We meet on Monday evenings from 7:30 to 9:30, and we give 4 concerts every year, 2 full classical concerts, and then a holiday concert, our Home for the Holidays concert, which is simulcast here on WFWA, and then also we do a concerto aria concert where we feature the winners of our annual concerto competition.
Well, you have members who really have, it's their second family.
Yes.
Is it not?
Yeah,
You have
absolutely.
members who have been in the orchestra for many, many, many years. And that kind of commitment, you just can't get that. You can't get that in any other kind of volunteer organization. But it's that Monday night commitment, it's the love of music. I'm sure many of them are, lawyers, librarians, but they were musicians as children and they didn't want to give it up.
Yeah, many people have told me over the years when they come back, they may be in their 40s, 50s, they'll contact me and say, I played violin in high school and a little in college, and then I got my degree in business or nursing, whatever, went out, established a career, got a family going, and now there's something missing. I miss playing. I miss making music. And so they come back, and the camaraderie is fantastic. People are there because they want to be, not because they have to be. And so they do take the time every Monday to come out. And the orchestra's grown tremendously. We had, I think, 27 people in it the first year.
Wow.
I conducted it, and we're about 65 now.
And the holiday concert you mentioned is a huge hit in Fort Wayne.
Yeah.
We have 1,500 seats in the Hour Hall, and it darn near fills up when you guys do that concert.
It's really exciting.
It's a terrific concert, and it's great that WFWA now broadcasts it live. All right, well, let's talk about the impresario and this collaboration you have. That's a strange little laugh. Oh, yeah, yes, the one we're still working on. Well, first of all, you're doing it twice, correct?
That's correct.
Why are you doing it twice?
What I was saying, it was so generous of him to, we usually do 2 performances.
Okay.
And he was so generous to offer a second performance, because I like to double cast things so as many students get a chance to learn the craft as possible. And the roles in this particular opera are very demanding vocally. So we were fortunate that we do have 2 ladies that can sing Madame Golden Trill.
Right,
And
nice name.
Miss Silver Peel. So we have these. I have opportunities for as many singers as possible to do this.
Yeah.
And
I'm jealous about that, I have to say, because when I cast a student musical at IPFW, I always feel bad that I have 35 people show up and I only have roles for 10. So that's, I'm jealous that you have that opportunity to do that, because we don't have that opportunity in the theater. So congratulations, I'm glad you do that, because it's important. It's an important academic opportunity.
That's how I view it. Yes.
Yeah. So how does the orchestra feel about it? I mean, is it more rehearsal?
There's no additional rehearsals. What we've done is we had to split up the rehearsals in a way that we can accommodate our 2 soloists. We have, on the first concert on the 21st, we'll be featuring Jason Simon, a remarkable young pianist.
Yes.
He's just a phenomenal pianist. He's going to play the second and third movements of Maurice Ravel's Piano Concerto in G with us. It's the second movement is one of the prettiest things I've ever heard. It's phenomenally beautiful, and he sounds amazing.
Is he graduating?
He's going to Manus. Got a scholarship, and he's studying in Manhattan.
Wow.
He was accepted at so many prominent
schools.
Yeah, Manhattan, Indiana, Michigan, Manus. Arizona State, I think.
So he's playing on the 21st.
So he's playing on the 21st.
Farewell concerts.
Yeah, indeed.
Wow.
And then on the 28th, we're going to feature on the first half Chris Adamishin, who's a tremendously talented trumpet player. And he's going to play this dynamite version of Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue that we have, that was arranged by some old school famous trumpet player in Russia named Timofey Dokhshitzer. He arranged it for trumpet and orchestra. So from the opening glissando that you always hear in the clarinet.
There's not many arrangements for trumpet and orchestra. It's got to be an old Russian that did it.
It's got an old Russian.
Leave it to the old Russians to get a trumpet going.
Chris is also a remarkable musician.
He is. I agree. Yeah.
He won he and Jason both were winners of the competition last year, and he played another Russian big rhapsodic piece with the orchestra and just blew the doors off the back of the hall. It was phenomenal.
Well, it's on Monday the 21st and Monday the 28th.
Yes.
And how do we get tickets for this great event? The Reinhardt Music Center, IPFW campus, ticket information is 260-481-6555, 260-481-6555, or ipfw.edu/tickets, ipfw.edu/tickets. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That
Right.
is it.
And it's in the Hour Hall, which is a fantastic hall.
Wonderful.
Fantastic.
Right, yeah. All right, well, thank you both for joining me. I look forward to it. I'm going to have to be at both, probably because I have to see Christopher and I have to see Jason. So
Absolutely.
look out. And it's a little bit naughty, so I'll be in
It's
the
a little
front.
bit naughty.
Look for me, front and center.
Sit down front.
That's right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I'm John O'Connell, Dean of the IPFW College of Visual and Performing Arts. Join me next time on Arts Weekly when we'll hear about the Heartland Chamber Chorale's Community Holocaust Commemoration Concert from director Robert Nance. Then John Tolley will be here to talk about Arena Dinner Theater's production of Blithe Spirit. For up-to-the-minute arts updates, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And be sure to join us here live Thursday evenings at 7:30 here on PBS 39. Thanks for watching Arts Weekly.
The preceding program on PBS 39 was made possible in part by
Excellence lives here in northeastern Indiana. It's reflected in more than 200 nationally recognized degrees. It drives our Division I sports. It's alive in our campus life. Excellence has a name, IPFW. Around our campus, around the country, around the world. Excellence lives here. Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, two great names.
For nearly 60 years, Arts United has worked to bring the rich, diverse talents of our region together through support of the arts, socially, culturally, and economically. Arts United, providing a home for the arts in Northeast Indiana.